Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Automating Productivity. If you were hoping for a DBB in the moderator seat today, I'm sorry to disappoint. You get a DBOK in the moderator seat instead. Presenting today will be the wonderful and, as always, intelligent and expert wise hacker, Notco. Now, that is not to be confused with David Allen Co. He is not Co because he's not David Allen Co. So let's keep that in mind. We have a few things to go over today. There's a little housekeeping going on, but if you can't hear me, try increasing your device volume, clicking on the audio settings, test your sound, switching to phone audio, all that good stuff. If you still can't hear anything, contact your moderator, that's me, and I'll see if we can work something out. There is a question pod for anybody who has questions. Please submit those in there. I may answer them as we progress through the presentation, but for the most part, we'll save those questions so that we can share them at the end with everybody and go over those answers. This webinar is being recorded and it will be available in the university shortly after this live presentation. One more request, and this is so important. This is probably the most important one out of the housekeeping items we have. At the end of today's presentation, a survey link will pop up. Please fill out that survey and let us know and give us feedback on how we're doing. So without much further ado, I leave it off to Notco.
Thank you very much, DBOK. Yes, I am David Allen, Notco. So let's go ahead and get started with today's presentation. But first, just a little bit about me. As DBOK has said, I am David Allen Notco because I am not David Allen Co. I joined and started with ConnectWise back in 2014, so it has almost been 9 years now that I have been part of ConnectWise. I started with overnight support for our Australian and our European partners, so I worked with many of our overseas partners for several years. Then came over to Days and helped start the Automate Premium Support Program. And after that, shortly after that, joined the education team as a consultant in 2018 and have been here teaching all of you wonderful partners ever since. Although I am not David Allen Co., fun fact is that I actually do share my birthday with David Allen Co., oddly enough. So I don't know if I was named after that namesake or David Allen Co., but hey, it's a good coincidence. For today's agenda, we're going to be starting off with groups and searches and talking about how the two are related to each other and how they can build off of one another, where the group is mainly built off of the search and getting agents in there where they need to be. Then once we have our agents in our group, we establish our monitoring and our alerts with the group. We're going to be mainly looking at the idea of a service plan group. For someone that has not messed with Automate, you may be thinking automatically of the managed 24/7 or the managed 8x5 service plan groups, but we're looking at also setting up our own service plan group, something customized to a particular client's needs. We have the monitoring and alerting in there, and then we can start scripting away life's problems. We see commonly occurring issues happening in that group. We see things that are happening with agents that we're having to go in and fix all the time, maybe by running some commands on the agent. We're going to look at starting to script away those problems, starting to work on maybe software installs or patching or keeping things up to date as far as client-specific software. We can go ahead and have scripts take care of that without having to raise our headcount to take care of that client. Then we're looking at moving tickets into the appropriate boards in PSA, where we have our monitor and alert maybe set up to start a ticket depending on the alert template, and it could be putting the machine or the ticket into a specific ticket category. And then in your PSA, it may determine where does that ticket exactly go. Is this something that is just logging information, recording time, and it's all set? or does it go to a service desk service board or a help desk service board where then one of your technicians picks it up and engages with the end user to work on the issue? But first, we're going to look at our business case for today. This is going to tie into our whole presentation, so you want to keep this business case in the back of your mind as we're going through today's presentation, where you've recently acquired a new project of building out an infrastructure for maybe 400 to 600 endpoints in a call center. It was a long and painful, arduous, time-consuming process to install the necessary call center software on each of the endpoints. You had those, say, 400 machines to set up, and you spent a lot of time getting the software installed on those machines, as well as the necessary monitors to monitor said software, both on the server and the workstation side. But in the end, you did a fantastic job. The client's very happy. They're very pleased with the outcome here. And they start to spread around word of mouth to maybe other call center clients and say, hey, this guy did a fantastic job. He installed our software. He's monitoring it now, and they're working great. So they are very responsive when we have an issue as well, because the monitoring picks it up. So now you're getting more call center clients, and you have more and more of them coming to you. Maybe you have one with 500 endpoints. Now you have another one with 200 endpoints. Now you have another one with 300 endpoints. And you're thinking, man, this one call center was such a long process to set up. How am I going to do this? So how can you start the deployment of the necessary scripts and monitors to the call center endpoints and at your new clients without increasing your headcount? How would you do that? But I do have a question to put out there for the audience today. Want to know is if and or how are you currently automating in the system? You can feel free to throw your response into the questions pod. If you can see it, you can throw it into the chat pod as well, and we can discuss a little bit about that. This is the slide and the area to do that in. So how are any of you automating today? Automating with Automate. All right, well, that's, you're not wrong with that answer. I will give you that. One example I can even say for myself is that there has been times in the past, and this has been for a while now, where I do have someone that is taken care of, and that in the service plan group, or there's a group that I've set up, it monitors the particular software they're using to run their business and to make sure that it's not airing out or causing any issues with running, or causing any issues, I would say, with memory usage or CPU usage if it's not flying off the handle or anything like that. So I have a monitor set up that will alert me to if something is down, and then I can go in and troubleshoot that. But I have some scripting built into that as well, where the script can go in and try to restart the process, or maybe it has to clear a cache for the program or something to that effect to get it running again. And then it can report back and let me know what's going on, record time on a ticket if I want it to, and take a look into that. Let's go ahead and continue on. So we'll start the breakdown of, well, what is a service plan? A service plan, of course, is your groups. Again, in Automate, we do have our default groups of managed 24/7, managed 8/5 is our examples. And groups are where a lot of the automation can take place. This is where a lot of the software installs can happen, a lot of the monitoring can happen, and a lot of even the troubleshooting via script can happen in Automate. So thinking back to our business case with the call center, we want to set up certain machines or certain agents with the call center software. And again, the aim is to not increase the headcount with setting this up. So if you have the 400 or so machines, physical machines set up and configured at the call center, now you can put an additional field on the location for the client. So if you recall, on opening a location in Automate and going to the Ignite tab, for example, you can pick service plans there, but you can also do EDFs or extra data fields for that location and say this client's location is a call center. So now with that additional field in place here, we can specify an auto join search that utilizes that additional field. And that will help get those agents into this group and start the process of having everything automated. Now that we have our agents in the group, we can deploy scripts to this group. And this script could be, again, for installing the call center software. So now I don't have to go ahead and touch 400 machines, or I don't have to select for the whole location and run a script on there. I can schedule a script on the group to first check, is the software installed on the endpoints? If it is, then it can see, is the software up to date? And go ahead and update the software if not. If the software is not installed, goes ahead and installs the latest version of the software. So it can touch all those machines for me. The nice thing about having the group do that is the group can fire off that script all at once on those agents for me. But if I see that in my automate system, it's maybe bringing the system to its knees and slowing things down, I also have the ability to stagger that script as well. So I can have that script execute maybe every 5 minutes or 10 minutes on certain amount of agents throughout that group. So I still know the script will run. I don't need any interaction. I don't need to select the agents and schedule a handful at 1 o'clock, another handful at 2 o'clock, another handful at 3 o'clock, and so on. I can set the script to stagger and actually have it run automatically through the whole group and get everything installed. So with our software in place, of course, now we have to monitor the software. We have to be aware of what's happening on the systems. Our monitors are going to then look at the said software and make sure, is it running? Is it using too many resources? Is the software locking up? Is there errors being logged in the event logs? The monitors can then raise alerts and let me know what's going on, or let my team know, and then we can go ahead and start working on the issue. Maybe it sees that the software has been crashing on a user's machine. We can then get a hold of the client and say, hey, we noticed this end user is having a problem. When can we work on this machine? Or you can do one of our best practices about remaining transparent and attempt to correct before you connect, and go into the agent itself and automate and run some commands in the background to help resolve the issue. We also have our agent templates that we can assign to the group. And the agent template is going to determine the agent schedule, maybe the branding we've applied to the agents. And the agent schedule would be where the information that is coming in from the agent, maybe we're getting certain event logs or certain other things recorded from the agent that is being sent in every hour on the hour or every half hour, however we have the template set up. All of these things together make up is what's known as an automated service plan. So you can essentially build your own custom service plan in Automate and get going on that and trim that down to set up your client for their specific needs. So now we'll talk about groups and auto joins. So groups are an easy way to organize and, of course, maintain the needs of your clients. They're like the vehicle that helps deliver your services. They manage and maintain a wealth of features inherited by its automatically joined groups. So thinking along the lines of that, they are a conduit for your configurations for your agents, and they manage the services that the company can provide, such as, again, the call center software. You can push monitors, internal and remote, to the agents on that group. And of course, schedule scripts to help install or push software out automatically. This could not only be limited to, say, the call center software, but this could be AV software as well. Maybe there's a particular flavor of antivirus that you prefer to have on all your agents that you want to push out via script. You can do that and install certain software on your script with your scripts on your agents in that group. You can also use patching in your service plan group as well, and you can configure patches to get installed and keep your machines up to date, not only for Microsoft patches, but again, going back to one of the install scripts, you can have a script scheduled to regularly check, is the software installed? Yes. Is the software up to date? No, I'm going to go ahead and update that software. So you can also patch that call center software in a sense, in addition to being able to configure and set up Microsoft patching as well. Which then gives you the ability to really customize the services that you're providing to that client for the group. For example, using the EDFs, you can get those 400 to 600 agents installed. Maybe you can set up and get working with a network probe on the network. The network probe distributes the agent out to all those machines. Then you can go to the location and select the EDF saying, this client is a call center. I'm going to go ahead and install the call center software via the script in the group where the machine was assigned to by the EDF. So using extra data fields would be very important here in setting that up for those machines. So creating searches in Automate, years ago could have been a daunting task because it was not very intuitive on there in the beginning, but it has gotten better over the years. And you can build searches now without knowing SQL queries or the database structure. I myself know enough about SQL and queries to be dangerous and probably destroy someone's database. I can drop a database quicker than anybody I know, but that is something that you don't have to worry about doing. And if you have the wrong query in there, that can happen. So with building a search in Automate, you don't have to worry about that. The relations that are set in the search are done by the search editor in Automate. So we can look for certain machines and see that, then do the relation to software or the hardware in that machine. Maybe we're checking out what version of the software is installed or what kind of software is installed. An example we'll look at would be Microsoft Office, for example. So in that, you can use wildcards, MySQL wildcards, in your search. Again, not really having to know MySQL, just know that you can use for example, the % symbol as a wildcard in your search. And the search is then defined using very simple logic. We're looking for computers with the application name that is like, or maybe contains, Microsoft Office. And that search as a result is going to pull up all the machines that contain Microsoft Office, no matter what version it is. We can save that search and then actually use that search to be added to a group for auto join and the limit to feature. We have that search, maybe the search is looking at that EDF for the call center, and that search is going to determine, all right, these agents belong to this group. We assign that search via auto join and use the limit to feature. So if any of the agents no longer meet that criteria, they can get thrown out of the group. So with auto join searches, how does the group know to use that? How would we set this up? So we do have our auto join searches in the group section here, and the auto join search is something that is going to then go out and look at the attributes of the agent based on where they are in location, client, what EDFs are selected for them, and put them in there. But the question is, of course, is why use an auto join search for the group? Why can't I just manually put the agents in the group? While manually putting the agents in the group would also be a very long and daunting process, auto join searches allow us to have a predictable result. It also allows us to keep a consistent policy on the group, and it runs about every 30 minutes, which is fantastic because you could start out with a client that maybe has 100 endpoints, but now because of your fantastic services that you've provided them and they've been able to work smoothly and make a good profit, Now they want to expand to 200 endpoints and add another 100 machines to their company. With the auto join search, those machines, the agent gets installed, the EDF is still set on the location. Now the auto join search can pick up and go, oh, you belong in this group because you're part of this call center location. Let's go ahead and put you in here. The new machines get put into the group, and then probably, depending on your timing for scripting, maybe say in another half hour or so, they all get that call center software installed and they're ready to go. So they ensure that only agents that match the criteria of a search remain in that group using the limit to search feature that you can see here. We're looking at the search for service plans, the Windows Server service plan managed 24/7. And that's what that search looks like here. So we're checking this search to see, is the onboarding complete with this agent? Great. Does the OS equal Windows, and is it a server? And does the service plan equal managed 24/7? Now, as you know, if we go into a location and automate and we go to the Ignite tab under the location and we look at these service plans, if I went and changed the server service plan to say managed 8x5, then that limit to feature is going to see that for that particular location and all the agents that are from that location in that group. The limit to search is going to say, hey, you no longer meet this search criteria I have specified here. You're out of this group. You're no longer going to be allowed in here. So with the and or statements, you can also do a not and have the computer we're looking at here, we're saying the extra data field of exclude MSP contract is true. It's looking for this to, of course, not be true. So we want to make sure that the exclude MSP contract is not something that is selected for the agent, because if that is, then it's also going to be tossed out according to that limit to search feature. So now we have our groups set up, we have our auto join search working for us, and we have our limit to search feature working. So the next thing is monitors and alerts. We want to know what's going on with those agents in the group. We have the agents there, things are set up. Now we need to see what's happening with those agents. And first we'll start with internal monitors. Internal monitors are, of course, run on the Automate server, and they're SQL statements against the database for Automate. So they are something that runs at a set interval, and depending on the agent template, they can be run at certain times. If the agent template is sending in a certain piece of information every hour, then you want to at least run that internal monitor every hour as well. Internal monitors can be managed at the group level and allow for alert flexibility. You can see here on our group, we're on the computers tab and internal monitors. And if I click to open one of those internal monitors within this group, I have the monitor settings window that opens. And here I can decide whether I want to disable or enable the monitor itself. So if I have a service plan group that I've created and I decide, well, I don't need this particular monitor to watch for this thing because maybe a particular piece of software is not installed, then I don't need to monitor for it. I'll go ahead and disable this monitor. I don't need to know about it. I can also enable the monitor in respect to that and then select an alert template. Maybe I just want it to raise an alert. Maybe I want it to raise an alert and create a ticket so I can have something go into PSA and pick up on that and have one of my technicians work on it. I can also specify a ticket category, which a ticket category will help determine what service board that ticket in PSA is going to go to. Along with our internal monitors, of course, is our remote monitors. Our remote monitors, as the name implies, they run external from the Automate server. They are checked directly against the agent. So a remote monitor is very useful if you are monitoring for resources on a machine, or maybe a particular website. Maybe you're looking at latency on a website, but something that you want to monitor more often. At least if the agent is not set up as a master in Automate, for example, then that agent normally by default is going to check in every 5 minutes. So you could have a remote monitor checking a process every 5 minutes. If the machine's a master, then you can have that remote monitor on the master agent check a process in as little as every 30 seconds to see if something is up and running. So this could be a good example of our call center again, and maybe this is the call center server where we have to make sure that a certain service is running on that machine, and if that service goes down, the whole call center goes down, which won't be good. So we want to be checking that process or that service, excuse me, every 30 seconds, and we have that server agent set up as a master, so it'll also check in every 30 seconds, and then we can go ahead and monitor that service, make sure it's up and running. If the monitor sees it's not, it can call an alert template to then kick that service and get it started again. Remote monitors are also managed at the group level, like internal monitors, which again allows for alert flexibility. You can see some remote monitors we have listed here back on our same group again, but it's under the Computers tab or Remote Monitors tab. And you can see the alert template they use, and maybe that alert template may set a specific category, or it may have some troubleshooting built in there via scripting. When you add a remote monitor to this group, you want to keep in mind again, since the remote monitors are run directly on the agents, they're a lot more responsive. So you can set things like monitoring the network, as I've mentioned, looking at website latency, for example, monitor files or directories. Maybe they have something where they have a process where maybe a directory fills up with files, but then they have an automatic process that runs every few minutes that moves those files to the correct location so the end users can work on said files. If there is some kind of holdup and they have files piling up in there, maybe the machine, wherever those files are held, lost access to a network drive, you can have a monitor look at that directory and say, oh, there's lots of files in here, you must have something wrong, and have it grab a technician's attention. So we got our agents there now, and we have our monitoring happening, and we're starting to see a lot of commonly occurring issues. So this is where we would start scripting away life's problems on our systems. We're seeing something that's commonly occurring over and over again. Maybe it involves that software, and we do have a way to fix it via a script. So we can put that in and script away life's problems. And this is also a way to not increase your headcount. If you have monitoring in place and you have error checking in your scripts, you can have it set to where the script is automatically going to handle things for you. So thinking back to our business case once again of acquiring the call center, you have 400 to 600 endpoints to install. And to our question of how can you start the deployment of the necessary scripts and monitors to call center endpoints without increasing your headcount? And you would do that with what we've been talking about, which is the service plan group. And with the service plan group, you have, of course, your scripts, and scripts have many benefits. They can provide you with a predictable outcome, which in itself will give you error reduction. What I mean by that is that, say if you have a technician that does a fantastic job, you know, they're great at their job, they always do everything very well, end users are very happy when they work with this technician, then this tech could be working in the office and maybe they're called away for something from another colleague. And so they're going through their checklist and they're on step 5. They go away from their checklist. Maybe they have a 20-step process here, for example. They're on step 5 on their checklist. They go work with the other colleague, and now they come back and they go, okay, where did I leave off? Oh, I was at step 6, or I was at step 6, or I finished step 6, so I'm going to go to step 7. Now they start back on their process again on step 7, where they've actually skipped step 6. They run through the whole process, they get to step 20, they think they're done, they go to launch the software or the process, and now it won't work. It gets an error or something has happened. And now their software is not running at all. So now they have to go back and they go, oh man, which step did I miss here? So with a script's never going to miss a step. A script is going to run through its steps, 100% accuracy, going through those steps all the time. It's not going to have that human error in there where it's accidentally going to skip a step, unless you have told the script to do that, but it normally should not. And so with that, you do have script logic intelligence built in there, or you can have it built in there, because you can have a script run through a particular install process, or maybe even a troubleshooting process, where a script will go through and maybe it's doing maintenance on the system, and for some reason, one of the maintenance tasks it's performing fails. You can have your logic built into the script where it's going to run through that process, and when it gets to a certain step, it can go and check the results of the process. Did this complete successfully, or did it get an error, or is this process still running? Once the script determines what has happened, you can actually have that script set up to go back again earlier in the process and start the process again. You can tell the script to wait, depending on what your logic is, because if the process is still running, you can say, hey, I'm going to pause the script for 1.5 minutes and see if the process will finish in that time. Then I'll check the time again. It's still running the process. I'm going to go back and pause again. And you can actually have it loop around like that maybe a few times, and maybe on the 3rd time, then you can have the script say this process isn't completing. I'm going to raise a ticket and put some time on this and have a technician take a look at it. So the script can do that with faster human interaction as well. That 20-step process, if it can be scripted out, I'm sure a script can run through those 20 steps faster than any human could, because scripts free up technicians for non-scriptable tasks. It runs through the process just as fast as you've seen there. This is an example of where we're bringing up an example of, say, this line is a script step and it goes to the next script step of opening that screenshot, for example. And you can see that that screenshot opened before I was able to finish reading that statement. That's basically the idea, or how quickly our scripts can work within Automate to get things going on a system or to troubleshoot an issue. With our scheduled scripts on a group in Automate, you can see under the advanced settings, you get some additional options when you're scheduling a script out to a group. You can have it set to pertain to the offline agents only. You can skip offline agents or wake offline agents. And if you look at the stagger scripts option, you can go ahead and distribute scripts over a set amount of intervals, say every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, and it's going to use blocks of agents that it will stagger the scripts to. So it won't bring a system to its knees if you have a group with, say, maybe 1,000 agents in it. If you run 1,000 scripts, or you're basically running a script 1,000 times on 1,000 agents, and all those agents start reporting back information into the database all at once, that could be something that could overwhelm the system. If you stagger that, then at set periods of time, the agents will start to run the script. So the first group of agents could be finishing up while the second group of agents is starting on their process, and so on. That way it won't bring the system to its knees, and you don't have 1,000 things talking to the server at once. Just imagine that if you're speaking to a group and everybody speaks to you all at the same time, that's going to be pretty overwhelming. But if everybody gives their response one after another, it's a lot easier to go through and process those responses. So scripts help to automate your groups to deliver your services that you provide. And with our business case, this covers software installs, whether it's that call center or AV software. They allow you to automate fixes on the system. You have a monitor that picks up on an issue. The script is pulled in the alert template and is run on the system. It runs through a process of troubleshooting the issue that normally maybe a technician would do, but now they don't have to do that. You allow the script to do it. And if it fixes and resolves the issue, great. You can still have that script log time on a ticket and even bill the client for the script doing the work. That's the nice plus side of scripting as well. Scripts can also perform maintenance, regular maintenance on the systems. Maybe that call center software has a cache on it that has to be cleared out every once in a while. They don't have an automatic setting in that software. So you can have a script go through and manually clean out the cache, say during their off hours. So every morning when the end users come in, the program has a clear cache and it can work and function without being bogged down by a lot of information within the cache. They can also be used to gather information on the systems as well. Maybe you want to get some statistical information from the program or the software on the systems. Maybe there's some logs that you want to grab. You can do that via a script. You can grab that information, maybe set some user variables with a script when you grab that information, and then you can use that gathered information to maybe run reports or to look at and see just what's happening with the machines and where you can make improvements on the machines. So a question for everyone here is how many of you or how many have deployed software from an Automate group? How many of you have used a service plan or utilized the service plan group to deploy software? Have any of you done that before, say via a script in a service plan group? That's so good. I see quite a few of you here are doing that. And when you have done that, have you, has it been a pretty predictable result? Has it been reliable with deploying that software, or has there been any troubleshooting that has had to happen? And yes, I should mention that scripts can be used to uninstall software as well. So don't think of it as just a one-way street. It can actually go the other way and be used to check for and uninstall software from your agents that's no longer needed. Okay, some of you say that it works flawlessly. And so, yeah, some have made the opposite where they've gone the route of uninstalling. That's great. All right. So yeah, using a script to uninstall software is a great thing as well, because you can go the opposite way, for example, with a service plan group, where if a software is no longer needed, maybe you can have a group pull in machines with the auto join search and the limit to feature to uninstall software. So you have your group set up, you have the auto join search set up in the limit to feature, and what that search is doing is looking for a particular software installed on those agents, pulls the agents in. You have a scheduled script to then uninstall the software from the machine. And now when the auto join search runs again after the software has been uninstalled, the auto join search will see on the group, oh, that agent no longer has the software installed. I'm going to throw that agent back out of the group. So that's a temporary, you can think of it maybe as a temporary service plan group that pulls agents in, does what it needs to do. And as a result of that script, now that agent no longer meets the search criteria. So then it's taken back out of the group because there's no need for the agent to be there if the task has already been performed and it no longer meets the criteria. We got one person here that says, took a little time to get used to creating scripts of that kind, but once we got it, it worked just fine. That's fantastic. So now we have our scripts, we have our monitoring set up, we've got things running in the group. Great. But now what do we do with this information? How do we work on it when issues arise? And that's where we get into our PSA integration. And to help do that, we have our default ticket categories within Automate, which our default ticket categories help route tickets to different service boards based on the nature of the issue. So you could have a service board that is help desk, for example, in your PSA, and the help desk issues are going to be things for maybe a program is using too much RAM, or there's not enough memory on the machine, or maybe it's running low on hard drive space, and something that needs technician interaction to get things running properly again. That's where you're going to have it go to maybe a help desk service board. Where you're going to have another one, say, where maybe a program crashed and restarted all on its own, or a service crashed and restarted, but it's fine. It doesn't necessarily need technician information right now. You could have that go to an informational service board. And if the issue arises again, you can have further monitoring to act on that. So in Automate, if you would navigate to the dashboard, configurations, information-based categories, you can look at then the ticket category mapping within our Automate. So we can say, for example, with our ticket category disk drive, maybe there is something going on with a disk drive, maybe you couldn't defrag. So it's going to go to the service board managed service plan, and then a technician could be looking at that board and saying, okay, there's something going on here. We're going to go in and take a look at that. I know defragging is not much of a thing as it used to be with the advent of SSD drives. Now it's optimizing the drive. So maybe you could see for some reason the optimization process fails or doesn't complete on the system, and you can have technicians start to look into that as well. You also have other things in here are how do I, for a ticket category, for example, goes to our help desk service board. That's a bit of a higher priority because that's now a client posing a question, and you need a technician to get to that much sooner than, say, the disk drive issue. Because the disk drive issue, the machine could still be running, but the drive's not optimized, but it's not completely down. So with our internal monitors and our remote monitors as well, is we can set our ticket category when we have an internal monitor pick up on an issue and alert on something. If we open our software unclassified apps, for example, by default, the ticket category was informational, but with the unclassified apps, we have to decide where a technician has to make a decision on should this software be whitelisted or blacklisted. Now, with dealing with unclassified apps, I know there may be some of you that don't do that, because I do know from our partners that the unclassified apps list is very long. So many of you may leave that as the informational ticket category because you really doesn't matter about the software installed in the machines for you, and that's fine. But there may be some of you out there that do use the unclassified apps and do want to know when new software or unclassified software is set up on a machine, and then you could decide whether you want to whitelist it or blacklist it so you can know about it again or not. So we can open up the monitor and the internal monitor within the group, and we can set the ticket category to software. So now when it's set to software, it will go to the appropriate service board in PSA, and then we can have a technician dive into that and take a look at what's going on. But there is a dashboard property in Automate to route based on ticket category updates. You want to remember that ticket category routing only works on initial creation unless you have this property added and enabled in the Automate dashboard. And that particular property is the sys always remap manage tickets. So this goes back to an example I was talking about earlier. If you have a script troubleshooting an issue, and maybe it tries to rerun the process again, or it has to wait for results, and then the script is going to take actions or maybe go another avenue based on the results. If the script still ends up failing and the ticket needs to go from informational now to the help desk, you can have the script actually remap that ticket category. So then in PSA, it will go from an informational service board over to a help desk service board and have your technician work on it, letting the technicians know this process has failed. So what does that property look like in Automate? Here it is on the dashboard. You would go to your config tab, configurations and properties, and you can see the property we have highlighted here. We have it set to a 1. Now remember, you have to have this set in order for the ticket category rerouting to work, which is what we're going to look at in our next example here. So we have a custom defrag script that was created in our own Automate system. And you can see that the script starts out and it will check to see if the defrag process was successful. If it was, then it will exit the script, creates a ticket with its set ticket category, may put time on it, everything's good. But if we go further down the script here, if it's not successful, now it's created that ticket, we're going to have it run through a little bit more of the process, and then we're going to have it resend the drive information for the script. We're going to have the script wait, pause, or sleep for 61 seconds or a minute and 1 second. So it can give the machine time to gather its results and report back to the script. Then it's going to check to see if the defrag results have failed. So if the results contain check disk, it's going to jump to a a fail open step a little bit later on in our script. Or if the result does not contain the operation completed successfully, it will also jump to the fail open on there. So we have 2 different types of outcomes that can happen here. You can have more if you want as well. So if the results do that, it will jump to this. If the results do that, it will jump to this, and we could add a 3rd one in there as well. It will set 15 minutes on the ticket if it is successful. So if we don't match these results, we're going to say, hey, it's successful. That's great. Put 15 minutes on the ticket, defrag was successful, adding time to the ticket. So now we can bill the client appropriately. If we jump down to the fail to open because it did not complete successfully, now it's going to still log the same amount of time on the ticket. So the client will still be billed 15 minutes. The ticket time, or now the body of the ticket is going to note that the defrag has failed and it added time to the ticket. The comment, defrag failed, maybe we have a little bit more information in there stating what happened. And you can see here on this step, right at the bottom, we're setting the ticket category now to ticket category 190. Remember at the beginning of the script, we set the ticket category to 201, which could have been the informational service board or the ticket category for the informational service board. Now down here, we're setting to ticket category 190, which can be the, which can be the service board for the help desk, which is now going to grab someone's attention to now go look at that machine. Why isn't this machine defragging? But again, remember this can only happen when that custom property is set within the dashboard. So now with that ticket category set, it's going to go to the appropriate service board. Technician picks up, works on it, fixes the issue. Again, if everything's successful, then you'll see something in PSA similar to this where it adds time to the ticket and it can bill the client accordingly now. So a few of the key takeaways from today's presentation is you can build your own service plan by using groups and searches within Automate. You have your call center group, which is going to be your service plan for that group. You can set the additional fields, which will drop the agents in there. You can set your monitoring up, which will alert you to anything happening within that group, the scripts to either check for the software and or install it and update it. And then you can start to think about problems you can automate away. You have a commonly occurring issue, maybe a service for some reason is crashing or going down, or there is something happening on the machine where you have to clear out the cache of their call center program every single night. So they come in the morning and everything runs smoothly. You can automate that problem away so you don't have to assign that to a technician and have your technician go and work on more critical tasks and not the less meaningful tasks. So you can use that to deploy software via scripts and resolve issues. And then you monitor for common issues using that monitoring. You have everything deployed, set up and running. Now you can have internal monitors checking for certain things on the agent. So you can have remote monitors checking the more vital services, such as maybe the call center server service that needs to run on the server, and make sure that is running and checking that, say, every 30 seconds. And you can maintain proper configuration via the script in Automate. Our software install script for the call center, it can check to see, is the software installed? Yes, it is. Is the software up to date? No, it's not. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and download the latest version and install the latest version of the call center software. And then as we just saw in our custom defrag script, we have the ability to track time and keep your team focused with the PSA integration. So with our defrag script, it runs the defrag on the system. It can add 15 minutes to a ticket, and then the client will get billed accordingly through the informational service board. If the defrag fails, we can have a couple of steps in there that will then check to see what the failed result is and jump to the line accordingly in that script, record time on it saying that the process has failed, add time, bill the client, and then it will go to a different service board to get attention from a technician to work on the issue. Okay, now is the time for questions, and it looks like we do have some questions here.
Yeah, we did have two of them that we can look at here. I did answer where the ticket category mapping in again. We had a question on that. That's going to be in the ticket category from the sidebar, or if you haven't done it already, the configure ticket category mapping button. And if it's the first time, it will actually bring up the wizard. Otherwise, it will drop you right into the screen for modification of any ticket categories that have been made already. One question in here, I can't really answer this because I'm not sure about our specific monitors that we have built in, but can monitors set up to check on systems in Active Directory, determining if there is an issue between system and domain, such as trust relations?
Okay, so can monitors. Oh no, I don't see that. Oh, that was a question towards the beginning. I see here. Yes. Okay. So can monitors set up to check on systems on Active Directory, determining if there's issues between the system and domain, such as trust relations? Yeah, it could depend on the setup of the monitor. I know that there are monitors in Automate that do check on the health of, say, the domain controller on a system, because I've experienced this myself with a place or a small little business I take care of with my own Automate, where it is letting me know that trust relationships and or there could be possible issues that it has spotted with the Automate control, or not with the Automate, with the domain configuration, excuse me, with the domain configuration and the setup on the domain controller itself. Mark, if you want, I will grab your email from this question that was logged on here when I go and look at the GoToWebinar a little bit later on today, because I will look in my Automate system so I can grab the example of those monitors, and I'll see if I can get more information to you on how my monitors are set up on there. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I'll get you that additional information here, and I'll shoot you over an email with a little bit more information on that.
We also had some partner feedback come in on that. They use remote monitors on each workstation themselves that checks the trust relationship. So they're saying it's very possible to do.
Okay,
And
great.
to pile on to this, what I would like to say is even if we don't have it in our monitor stack, there are other methods of doing that, like scripting. Like I know PowerShell has many ways of checking health in Active Directory, and you can always lean on that and just build your own monitor. At the end of the day, the monitor is a script, right? It's just that we've prepackaged it and it's something easy for you to use. So
Right.
there are other ways of tackling these issues when they do come up, but it looks like it's possible.
Right. And as Rob said with PowerShell, a lot of that could be possible. And you can have a simple PowerShell script that will pretty much open up and run PowerShell on the agent. And then you can have PowerShell execute what you want it to execute to check everything out.
Another question was about uninstalling software, since we use that as a use case coming through here a lot. They wanted to know if it was also possible to release the licenses when you do that.
Now, that may depend on the software itself that's being uninstalled. Maybe when the uninstall process is kicked off, it again could depend on the program. If the software is no longer reporting in, maybe there is something with a licensing server that it checks, and after say 30 days, if it sees it's no longer checking in, it could release that license. It kind of depends on the software vendor and how they do their licensing. So could it release the licenses after that? If there is maybe say a PowerShell command that could do that, then yeah, you could script that as well, again using PowerShell to release the license when it uninstalls the software. You can do that, or you can simply have it uninstall the software, again depending on the licensing. So it kind of depends on how that software and that licensing configuration is set up. Maybe there's something on the back end or on a server that you need to run a certain command that will go ahead and release that license. Again, you can schedule a script to run a command line or PowerShell to then run that process to uninstall or release that license. So it could definitely be possible, but it again depends on the process or the licensing process of that software vendor, because other vendors may have it built in when the software uninstalls, it goes ahead and automatically releases that license upon the uninstall execution happening on that system.
Right now, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in at the moment.
Okay.
We got two.
We've got a couple minutes left, but if you don't have any questions, you can, or if you have one later on, you think, man, that would have been a really great question to ask, you can email education@connectwise.com, and we can, either myself or one of the other Auto Bros can pick up that question and we can get it answered for you. It's just the education@connectwise.com. It is a generic mailbox, but that mailbox is monitored by a few different people, and they get that question routed to the appropriate person to get it answered for you. And it looks like I think one more person popped in here at the bottom.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention that, as you were saying there, if they have any questions, they can also hit the virtual community if it's just a general question, and then you get more eyes on that. You've got PM on there, you've got partners coming through there, and you've got us going through there. So that's another avenue to also look at.
All right.
Let's
Actually, I
see.
was mistaken. I don't think another question popped
No, it was a comment.
in. Okay. Well, if there is no more questions, then we can go ahead and end this webinar for today. I want to thank everybody for attending. You all were terrific, and I want you to all have a fantastic day. Thank you very much. Have a good Thursday.